Oral questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. The Finance Minister admitted a few months ago that the deficit was fanning the flames of inflation. And a bit later, she announced that she would never eliminate the deficits that cause inflation. But there was a grain of common sense in the Liberal Party when they called for a plan to eliminate the deficit and stop fueling inflation. But the Prime Minister admitted that that motion was shot down. When will the government put an end to inflationary deficits? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what Liberals said at our convention was that we're the optimistic party. We're the party that believes in Canada. We are a political party that understands the importance of investing in Canadians. When it comes to fiscal matters, Canada's credit rating, AAA credit rating, was upheld after our budget was tabled.
Minister, but he doesn't have the courage to stand up and answer it. But his finance minister said just a few months ago that deficits add oil to the inflationary fire. A few weeks later, she announced she would continue running deficits forever. There were a few courageous Liberals who showed up in a minority to their Congress to push forward a motion which would have required this government eliminate these deficits. But it was voted down, sadly, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister have the courage to stand up and answer? Will he get rid of his inflationary deficits, or does he believe that budgets will balance themselves?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I am really glad to hear the Leader of the Opposition recognize the courage of the Liberal Party. And indeed, the Liberal Party showed itself to be courageous and optimistic this weekend. We showed we are the party that believes in Canada. We are the party that understands the importance of investing in Canadians.
Yes,
and you know
indeed.
what, Mr. Speaker? The economic results show that that works. Canada's AAA credit rating was reaffirmed by S&P after I tabled our budget. Our economy grew by 2.5% in the first quarter, and we've added 900,000 jobs since the pandemic.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Well, the Prime Minister was so courageous, he wouldn't be afraid to stand up and answer a question, would he? If the Prime Minister was so courageous, he might throw out Beijing's agent. A week after we found out, as a nation, that this agent had been threatening the family of a Canadian MP for a vote that he cast in this House, the Prime Minister hasn't thrown him out. In fact, he extends credentials to that agent, allowing him to operate with impunity from our laws here in our country. Will the Prime Minister show some courage, answer the question, and kick this agent out today?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're talking about serious issues, and I'd like us to all be serious for a minute. In this House, we disagree about many things. We disagree about childcare. We disagree about a price on pollution. We disagree about investing in Canadian industrial policy. But there is one thing that I know every single member of this House in every party agrees on, and that is the sanctity of democracy in Canada and around the world. And it is simply wrong to suggest in any way any member of this House is not a faithful, patriotic, democratic Canadian.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister believes that he should stand up and say so and kick out this operative from Canada. So far, he's been hiding. He's hiding from answering my questions, but he's hiding from the regime in Beijing. This government's now saying that they cannot kick out this operative, even though he threatened the family of a Canadian MP, because they're afraid of the consequences that Beijing will impose on the Liberal government that it has supported for so long. Will the Prime Minister finally put this country first, bring home security to all MPs, and kick this operative out, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Speaker, Leader of the Opposition, if you were paying attention, would have heard that my colleague, the Minister of Global Affairs, convened last week the Chinese ambassador to make it abundantly clear that we will never tolerate foreign interference. This is consistent with the strong position that Canada has taken when it comes to the conventions around what is legitimate diplomatic activity and what is not. And we will continue to put in place the authorities, the people, the resources, and the transparency to defend our democratic institutions. I just wonder why it is, the Leader of the Conservative Party continues to politicize an issue that is a Canadian issue.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Parce que nous voulons protéger.
Because we want to protect democracy here in Canada. And the Prime Minister didn't have the courage to answer the questions. But his minister said the government will never accept foreign interference. But that's precisely what they're doing right now, Mr. Speaker. If the government and the Prime Minister want to protect our democracy, they should expel the operative responsible for threats against a member here in Canada. Does the Prime Minister have the courage to expel that operative now? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, last week the Foreign Affairs Minister met with the Chinese ambassador to raise legitimate issues, and when there are examples where activities go beyond what's allowed, what's legal, Canada will always condemn that. And we have already promoted transparency and the defense of democratic institutions. The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the Century Initiative, a proposal to triple Canada's population through immigration to reach 100 million people by 2100, or the turn of the century. By the very admission of its creators, the initiative leaves out the future of French, the political clout of Quebec, or the First Nations. It's strictly economic. The Liberals have never said they were on board with this idea, but their immigration targets for 2023 to 2025 are already in line with the initiative's objectives. Mr. Speaker, if this government is making this Century Initiative its immigration policy, can they at least say so publicly? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Mr. Speaker, it's essential for all members here to understand that we need to increase the number of newcomers, and we can protect French at the same time all across the country. That is possible, clearly, because last year, for the first time in Canadian history, we reached a target of 4.4% of new arrivals and Francophone newcomers as well. It's very important because these are the highest numbers we've ever reached in Canadian history, and it's a good thing for minority communities. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, the Century Initiative is purely economic. On February 1st, its co-founder, Dominic Barton, a former McKinsey executive, was asked if he'd thought about the future of French, and he said the focus was only on the economy. They weren't thinking about the social context. They were thinking about productivity. Mr. Speaker, not a single word about French in the 88 pages of the initiative. So since it disregards the future of French, what other studies on this subject did the government rely on before adopting the initiative's immigration targets? Will they release those studies? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I have good news for my colleague. It's myself and our government who make the immigration policy decisions for this country, not Dominic Barton. And that's very important because our government's perspective is economic, social, and democratic. It's essential to take all those factors into account because when we use those factors, we make good decisions for the country. Last year, we protected the democratic influence of Francophones all across the country, including and especially those in minority communities.
CSIS informed Canadians and this government that multiple members of this House have been targeted by foreign interference. All parliamentarians need assurance that their safety, their family's safety, and their freedom of expression are not threatened. And Canadians need to know that their vote counts and that our democratic process is free of foreign interference. The government needs to assure Canadians they're acting on these serious allegations. Let's start with some transparency. Have all MPs impacted by interference been fully notified by this government?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I share the concerns of my colleague, and that is why last week I tabled an annual report of CSIS, which illustrated that they had provided briefings to 49 federal parliamentarians, and we will continue to provide the support that is needed for every member in this chamber to be able to do their job, secure in the knowledge that they are representing their communities in a way that is safe. Mr. Speaker, this is a government that will continue to do everything that is necessary to defend our democratic institutions, and including the people that work in them.
The honourable member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Mr. Speaker, I imagine that like a lot of people, you're a bit of a foodie and you like to eat well. I also imagine you want to know what goes on your plate. But you should know that because of the Liberal government, this will no longer be possible. The Liberals have given in to the financial interests of the industry, which wants to secretly introduce new GMOs into our food. There's no such thing as voluntary transparency. It's an illusion. Will the Liberals have the courage to stand up to big business and defend the rights of consumers? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Of course, we have made new rules to protect the organic food sector all across Canada. And of course, we will continue working with industry because it's a growing industry.
For Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, when something happens once, it's a mistake. When something happens twice, it's a pattern. And when something happens 3 or 4 or 5 times, it's a decision. The Prime Minister and members of his party have all perpetuated the myth that the member for Wellington Halton Hills knew about the threats against his family because he was briefed 2 years ago. It's false. At some point, someone made a conscious decision to gaslight Canadians. Will someone on the other side have the courage to stand up and apologize for the disgusting attempt to discredit a member of this House?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Speaker, as my colleague across the aisle knows full well, both myself and the Prime Minister directly reached out to the member for Wellington Halton Hills to share the concerns with regards to the reports around foreign interference and his families. We offered him a briefing, and we will continue to provide that support going forward. Mr. Speaker, what's also important is that while the Conservatives talk tough when it comes to national security, they never back it up. They cut nearly $1 billion out of the national security apparatus. They've stood in the way of the additional tools to our national security apparatus, which are there to defend the members of this chamber. If they're serious about uniting behind the cause of defending the democracy, they'll start doing it today.
Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, he wasn't briefed 2 years ago on it. They know it, and they are purposely victim blaming. He is gaslighting Canadians. This is about a member of this House serving his country and the safety of his family in the balance. It's appalling that the Liberals are tarnishing this MP, but it's even worse that the diplomat who perpetuated it is still here with the rights that even Canadians don't have because it was given to him by that government. If there are no consequences, it'll just happen again. The diplomat needs to go back to Beijing, and it needs to happen now. Will they do it today?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Speaker, and I first want to say there was a lot of heat in the House last week about this issue and not a lot of light. I think that what we all on this side of the House want to do is express our concern for the member for Wellington Halton Hills and for every Canadian who could be the subject, the target of any interference from China, from Russia, from any other country in the world. We will continue to take the steps to ensure that MPs are informed, that Canadians are informed, and that we have a safe and secure democracy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
honourable member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister is really trying hard to save face after his complete failure to protect our democracy, Canadians and members of this House from intimidation by the Beijing dictatorship. And last Friday, he doubled down and blames and attacks the credibility of the member for Wellington Halton Hills. The Prime Minister claimed his office had not been briefed, that he knew nothing about this until recently. Will the Prime Minister stop spreading this categorically false narrative and finally expel this Beijing agent today?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the only falsehoods that are being spread today is the outrageous suggestion that the members of the government on this side of the chamber have no care or regard for the member for Wellington and Halton Hills. Nothing could be further from the truth, Mr. Speaker. That is why we're continuing to support him, and we'll support all members when it comes to doing their job so that it is free from foreign interference. And the Conservatives need to stop politicizing this issue. That simply plays into the hands of foreign interference. We need to be united in defending our democracy, and we can only do that work successfully if we do it together.
Honourable member for Brantford Brant.
Fact of the matter, Mr. Speaker, is Canadians do not believe this Prime Minister, and most assuredly this Minister. Canada's spy agency did in fact notify this government 2 years ago regarding Beijing's threat to a member of this House. Even the Prime Minister's own National Security Advisor confirmed that her office had received this information in 2021. Enough of the smoke and mirrors. Will this Prime Minister apologize for deliberately misleading this House, be a leader for once, stand up for the security of all Canadians, and finally expel that Beijing agent?
I just want to mention and make sure that everyone is clear is if you're misleading someone, you're doing it unintentionally. But if you're deliberately misleading, that is not acceptable language. I'm sure it was an error on the member for the...
That's unacceptable right there.
I'm sorry?
That's unacceptable.
I'm sorry? As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, I just want to remind everyone there's certain language that is not allowed in the chamber, and deliberately misleading is not allowed. The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for reminding our colleagues in the Conservative Party about that principle, because in all candor, the only way that we are going to be able to do the work of defending our institutions is if we rid ourselves of the kind of partisanship and politicization which has been plaguing this subject now for weeks. It should be abundantly clear that if we want to protect our democratic institutions and the people that work in them, including every member in this chamber and their families, that we must do that together. This government has put in place new authorities and transparencies. Let's get behind the cause of defending it so we can have real debates that are rooted in our democratic principles.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. What an embarrassing answer, Mr. Speaker. A member of this House and his family have been targeted by an intimidating diplomat from Beijing after a vote in this House. The events took place 2 years ago, and the MP was only informed last week. Since then, the Liberals have been in a panic to save face, Mr. Speaker. Instead of supporting our colleague, they pointed the finger at him. Who did this? The member for Kingston and the Islands and the member for Winnipeg North. Worse still, the member for Papineau and Prime Minister, who should have known, claims the opposition member knew. Are all Liberal ministers okay with defending Beijing at the expense of a Canadian MP and his family? The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. Mr. Speaker, all ministers of our government, and in fact all members in this place, should agree that we should work together to protect our democratic institutions and to make sure that all members in this place, including our friend from Wellington Halton Hills, are able to do their work as MPs, free from foreign interference. That's always been this government's position. We put in place measures that did not previously exist under the previous government, and we will continue to take every opportunity to strengthen them. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. They can't continue what they haven't even started. The Prime Minister did nothing. The Prime Minister's office did nothing. The National Security Advisor did nothing. The Minister of Foreign Affairs did nothing. No arrests, no expulsions. The message is clear. Canadian MPs can be intimidated by Beijing. This Prime Minister will just turn a blind eye. The only real consequences, 2 MPs in this House were silenced for trying to stop this shameful Liberal disinformation. Why does the Prime Minister allow this bully to stay in Canada? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague is perhaps confused. The ones who did nothing to protect our democratic institutions against an existing threat of foreign meddling, that's on the current leader of the official opposition when he was a minister responsible for democratic institutions. Since we took office, we announced more steps to strengthen what we started in 2019 and 2021. We will continue to protect our democratic institutions. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, tripling the population of a country in 75 years, well, there's no country in recent history that has done that. The Century Initiative deserves an adult and intelligent debate, but it's only to be expected that Quebecers would ask questions about this, but there's been no debate. The federal government seems to be going ahead anyway. The immigration targets set by Ottawa till 2025 already are in line with the initiative targets and go a little beyond. First, will the Liberals dissociate themselves from the Century Initiative, or are they confirming that this is our new immigration policy? The Honourable Minister. Immigration is essential to support our economy and our communities. It's important for everyone here to understand that it is possible to protect Francophone political influence in this country and increase the number of new arrivals. At the same time, the members opposite know this, and it's up to the government of Quebec to set their own immigration levels, and the federal government sets levels for the rest of the country. We will continue to increase numbers to support our economy. It's a good thing for Canada, and it's a good thing for Quebec. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Well, what a coincidence. The federal targets are the same as the Century Initiatives. This initiative is first and foremost about economic interests. Dominic Barton has confirmed that they didn't take anything else into account. They didn't think about the impact of tripling the population on the future of French, on Indigenous languages, on the political weight of either group. They didn't think about the housing shortage either. So if the Century Initiative is based on nothing more than economics, can the government prove that it has anything else to go by before setting its immigration levels? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker. As the members know, it's not up to me to defend the decisions of the Century Initiative. I defend our government's ideas and our immigration plan. The federal levels, that's my decision. It's a decision that takes into account economics, social factors, and in particular, increasing the number of newcomers, Francophone newcomers. Last year, we hit the target for the first time in Canadian history of 4.4% Francophone newcomers. That's a good thing, and I'm happy to be protecting and strengthening the French language. Oh, they meet their target once in 20 years and they pat themselves on the back for that? It's unthinkable tripling the population to 100 million people without public debate. That would transform Canada and Quebec behind closed doors with only the business community as people having a say. Immigration policies are public choices with real impacts, which should be democratic. But no one asked Quebecers nor Canadians what they thought of this. No one asked workers, community organizations, group responsibles for providing services to the public. Why should the business community have the first and the last word and the only word on this matter? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, my friend is on fire right now. In fact, it's up to the government of Quebec to make the decision on immigration levels for Quebec. If the Bloc thinks that the federal government is setting Quebec's levels, I have news for him. That's not how it works. It's important for him to understand. But I respect Quebec's jurisdiction, and I respect the terms of the deal with Quebec, but we have increased overall numbers. But at the same time, we've protected the French communities.
Mr. Speaker, this government has failed Canadians when it comes to foreign interference from Beijing. At least 8 police stations have been set up to monitor Canadians and their own soil. 11 MPs have had influence in either their nomination or elections. And a sitting MP 2 years ago had his family intimidated by a Beijing operative in Toronto. Of all the inaction, the very least Canadians can expect is to have that operative kicked out of Canada. My question, Mr. Speaker, is when will he?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for the question and to assure every member of this House that we take this situation extremely seriously, as we have been doing with foreign interference for many years. We will continue to look at the situation as we have heard it. We will continue to do due diligence, and the minister will act with the right decision at the right time. This House needs to hear that. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Bay of Quinte.
Well, Mr. Speaker, perhaps that minister should convene some courage. I misspoke. I mentioned one MP whose family was intimidated. The Globe and Mail actually reported it was MPs, plural, which should shake every MP in this House to the core. There's a saying in sports, leaders anticipate, losers react, and this government is not even reacting. So much so that the agents in Beijing wrote that they don't even care about the repercussions because there won't be any. Canadians deserve a government that will stand up for them. When will they get it?
Yeah. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Again, Mr. Speaker, let me assure every member of this House that there are always repercussions if anybody breaks the law, if anybody goes outside their Vienna Convention responsibilities. Canada will continue to work to ensure that Canadians are safe, that members of this Parliament are safe as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Barrie Springwater, Oro-Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service detected that a member of Parliament and his family were being targeted by an operative for Beijing. In response to a vote in this House of Commons, we know that CSIS informed the National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister and the relevant departments at least 2 years ago. The Liberal government is now blaming CSIS for their own failure and inaction, and have yet to expel any diplomats from Canada. Why is the Prime Minister allowing this Beijing operative to continue his interference campaign on Canadian soil?
Oh. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government always has and always will stand up for democracy in Canada and around the world. We stood up for democracy when we supported the brave people of Ukraine with Operation Unifier. We stood up for democracy when we expelled 4 Russian diplomats after the deplorable nerve agent attack in the UK. And we stood up for democracy, Mr. Speaker, when we honored our extradition treaty with the US and detained Meng Wanzhou despite unacceptable bullying by the government of China. We will always stand up for democracy on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, more than 30,000 Albertans have been forced from their homes due to wildfires, and there is a serious lack of information about where they can get help and when. In the absence of provincial leadership, can the Minister of Emergency Preparedness reassure the thousands of Albertans, particularly Indigenous and Métis communities that have been affected by wildfires, that the federal government will be there to help with the recovery and help with the rebuilding for as long as necessary?
Yes. Minister for Emergency Preparedness.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member from Edmonton Strathcona for a very important question, and there are literally thousands of Albertans who've been significantly impacted by the wildfires. But, Mr. Speaker, I also want to say that throughout the past weekend, I've been in regular contact with my counterpart in the Alberta Provincial Government, Minister Ellis. The Prime Minister and the Premier spoke earlier today, and about an hour ago, we received a request for assistance, for federal assistance from the province of Alberta. Mr. Speaker, everybody is working to help those people and make sure that the supports they are needed are there for them, to keep them safe and to make sure that we help them through this very difficult time. I take the opportunity as well to offer my very sincere thanks to all the first responders and firefighters who are doing an extraordinary job.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
This National Nursing Week, we recognize the critical role nurses play in our communities. Last weekend, I traveled to Newfoundland and Labrador for important discussions on healthcare. I learned there are 750 vacant nursing positions in that province. 90% of nurses experience burnout, and 85% believe understaffing is creating unsafe conditions for patients. Nurses called on this government to include an emergency retention fund in this year's budget, but no help was delivered. When will the Liberals finally provide crucial support for Canada's nurses?
Well, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We recognize Canadians are proud of our healthcare system, but it's not meeting expectations these days. That's why we made a $198.6 billion investment in our healthcare system back on February 7th. We expect that is going to help with things like the human resources and healthcare challenges that my colleague and friend has articulated so well. I'm glad that he's meeting with nurses, Mr. Speaker. I have been too. We recognize that it's a very, very challenging role in the healthcare system, and we've got to do more to make sure that they're supported. That includes retention, that includes better recruitment, but we've also got to take care of those who are working in that sector, because we recognize, especially now that it's Mental Health Week, that there are repercussions. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, in my riding of Mississauga, Erin Mills, I've heard from many constituents and small businesses about the need for urgent financial support. Can the Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance please update the House on how Budget 2023 is going to help Canadians in my riding of Mississauga, Erin Mills, and across Canada with reducing credit card fees for small businesses, incentives to build a greener economy, and support for student loan interests? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister for Tourism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the honourable member for Mississauga, Erin Mills, for that fantastic question, for all her hard work on behalf of the residents of Mississauga. Mr. Speaker, our budget presents a prudent fiscal plan that supports Canadians, supports Canadian businesses, lowers costs, increases tax deductions, and lays the foundation for a prosperous economic future for generations to come. That is great news for Canadians, Mr. Speaker, but disappointingly, the Conservatives just last week voted against. And while their priority is on partisan games, Mr. Speaker, our priority will be on supporting Canadians.
Honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is spreading misinformation that the member for Wellington Halton Hills had been briefed by CSIS 2 years ago that his family had been targeted by a Beijing diplomat. The Prime Minister knows this to be untrue. In fact, it was the Prime Minister who knew about it for 2 years, did nothing, and kept the member in the dark. Now that he is resorting to victim blaming, how much lower can the Prime Minister go?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, it never ceases to amaze me how absurd the suggestions can be in this chamber from the Conservative Party on this issue. Of course, we have regard for the member for Wellington and Halton Hills. Of course, we have regard for the safety and security for all members in this chamber, so that we can exercise our constitutional responsibilities by representing our constituents and doing so free and clear from any foreign interference. That's why we are putting in place all of the authorities and the transparency that is necessary to do that. And it's far since past the time in which the Conservatives need to abandon their rhetoric on this and get behind the hard work, rolling up their sleeves, so we can defend our democracy.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, for 2 years, the Prime Minister covered up that a Beijing diplomat targeted the family of the member for Wellington Halton Hills. Then, when it became public, he falsely claimed that he knew nothing about it. And now he is spreading misinformation in a disgraceful attempt to impugn the character of the member who is a victim of the Prime Minister's inaction. Will the Prime Minister show any level of decency? Will he apologize to the member and Canadians for this disgusting display?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives can shout all they want, but that won't detract from the work that this government is doing to defend our democracy. That won't detract from the work that we have done in setting up a committee of parliamentarians in which the Conservatives continue to play Jekyll and Hyde. 1 week they sit on it, the next week they don't. They need to abandon these types of political tactics and do the hard work, roll up their sleeves, make sure that, yes, we protect this chamber as a place that is sacred, where we can have debates in the interests of all Canadians. That's what the Conservatives need to do, not continue along the lines of this hopped-up rhetoric.
Member for Mission Metsky, Fraser Canyon.
Well, Mr. Speaker, rather than expel a diplomat who targeted an MP's family This government did nothing for 2 years. Last week, the Prime Minister peddled a narrative that it was the member from Wellington Halton Hills who in fact knew and said nothing. Nobody in this chamber is debating that a Beijing official engaged in threats against a sitting member of this House. So the question is, when will the Prime Minister stop misleading Canadians to cover up for his failures and expel the Beijing diplomat today?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, I think it's really important to say no one is misleading the House in this matter. There are steps that need to be taken always if you are going to expel a diplomat. It is due process. You might say that we don't need to follow the rule of law. You don't need to say that on that side of the House. This side of the House, we will always do due diligence, follow the evidence, follow the rule of law, make the right decision at the right time. This House can be rest assured of that.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, on the weekend, two former Liberal ministers stated that all of Ottawa knew what was happening against the Conservative member for Wellington Halton Hills, and now, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is still repeating that he didn't know about it. So everyone in Ottawa knew but the Prime Minister? Mr. Speaker, as you know, I can say something about what I think about that. But I want to know is when is this government going to act in the interests of all Canadians and expel that so-called Beijing diplomat? The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague knows full well that we must take the right decisions at the right time. But what is also important, Mr. Speaker, to remember is that we are the only government who has taken foreign interference seriously. We have put measures in place. We strengthened those measures during the 2021 election, and obviously we are concerned by the situation that is being gone through by our colleague, and that is exactly why we gave further directives to our intelligence agencies. The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have found a way during their convention to solve the matter of Chinese interference. Their solution is to forbid the media from talking about it. That is literally one of the resolutions adopted by the Liberals this weekend. For them, the problem wasn't that candidates were helped by China or that members were being threatened. No, the problem is that the medias were talking about it. This is shameful, and to get rid of the burden of Chinese interference, the Liberals have proposed a solution worthy of the Chinese Communist Party. Can the House guarantee that this solution will not be considered?
Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage.
About the Liberal Party, Mr. Speaker, is that we can disagree on things. Our government has always and will always respect the independence of the press. Journalists need to be able to freely report the news as they see it. They need to be able to ask the tough questions and report on the facts as they see them. A free and independent press is fundamental to our democracy and guaranteed by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's also the best defense against disinformation. Thank you, Mr.
Speaker. The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's because the motion said, that's not what the motion said. Last week, the Prime Minister blamed CSIS for having forgotten to inform the member for Wellington Halton Hills that he was being threatened. But that's false. The CSIS had told the Prime Minister's office in 2021. It is the senior advisor of the Prime Minister for security who confirmed it. Why is this important? Because once again, in the matter of Chinese interference, the Prime Minister is saying the opposite of the truth. And that's been the case since day one. He has no credibility to shed light on this topic, so when will we get a public, independent inquiry? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, as my colleague knows full well, we have appointed a special rapporteur who is independent. That is the Right Honourable David Johnston. He's been working on this already, and he is reviewing all of the issues that have come up in terms of our intelligence agencies. He has access to all the information he needs, and we are very eager before the end of month of May to hear his recommendations. To answer my colleague's question.
Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, one of the Mass Casualty Commission's recommendations directly reflects the Liberal ban on firearms, Bill C-21. This bill added firearms without consultation and even used this tragedy to its advantage. The opposition was fierce. However, a revamped version has reared its ugly head. What we know clearly is the monster from this tragic event was neither a legal gun owner nor were his guns legal. In a recent op-ed, the authors state the focus should be on securing the border, providing mental health support, and diverting at-risk youth from gangs. When will the Prime Minister start addressing violent repeat offenders and stop attacking Grandpa Jaw, who owns a hunting rifle?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, respectfully, that's exactly what the government is doing. And last week, I was very proud to see that members of our caucus have put forward amendments to Bill C-21, which will strengthen the national ban, which the government put into place, on AR-15 style firearms, which have absolutely no legitimate recreational purpose in any of our communities, Mr. Speaker. It is only the Conservatives who continue to put forward policies that amount to legalizing AR-15 style firearms. That's the wrong path. They need to get behind Bill C-21 so we can save lives.
Well, member for Kenora.
Here we go, Mr. Speaker. The NDP Liberals are at it again. He wants to talk about saving lives, but Mr. Speaker, under his watch, we've seen a violent wave of crime across the country. Mr. Speaker, they have failed to fix the broken bail system. They are failing to address violent repeat offenders. What they're doing, Mr. Speaker, is bringing forward a confiscation plan that's only going to hurt hunters and sport shooters. In fact, I received a text this morning from Chief Rudy Turtle, a former NDP candidate, who told me that he is, quote, against any gun law that would impact our traditional practices. Mr. Speaker, when is this coalition finally going to target criminals and not...
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, there they go again, Conservatives trying to stoke fear. If my colleague had actually read the amendments that are part of Bill C-21, they would have seen that we included a non-derogation clause specifically for Indigenous persons, Mr. Speaker, but they didn't read it, Mr. Speaker. Instead, they're just filibustering. They're just about a record of putting cuts to police budgets. They're just about weakening our borders. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we're going to keep our communities safe by strengthening borders, by putting more resources into law enforcement, and by passing strong gun control laws.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, each time a criminal uses a firearm to commit a crime, it costs society $500 million. A study published by a criminology professor at University Laval says that homicide is the most expensive crime, costing $10 million per firearm used to kill someone. But instead of attacking the source of the scourge, the Liberal NDP Bloc Québécois would rather spend $200 million to buy back legally owned firearms. When are they going to stop these partisan games and actually protect Canadians' safety? The Honourable Minister. Once again, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives, with their tough talk but lack of concrete action, are calling us out, but it is our government that is making the investments needed to support police forces. This morning with my colleagues in the Peel region, we announced that we would invest another $390 million to protect Canadians' security, and yet it is the governments who cut that budget, and it is this government who is going to continue to protect and support our police forces. The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, the officials of the Canada Revenue Agency are working hard to provide important services to Canadians. The Government of Canada believes in the process of collective bargaining, and the best agreements are those that are reached around the table. Can the Minister of National Revenue tell us a bit about the agreement in principle that was reached? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle for her question. After many weeks of diligent work, the CRA reached an agreement in principle with the Union of Taxation Employees. We appreciate the patience and understanding of Canadians during this period, because it's around the negotiating table that the best agreements are reached. These agreements are fair, competitive, and reasonable, and we are deeply grateful to the officials who work very hard to serve Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are fed up of being laughed at by the Prime Minister, who goes on taxpayer-funded trips, while other normal Canadians have trouble paying their bills. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister stop taking it easy and set the example by stopping spending recklessly all of our taxpayers' hard-earned money? The Honourable Government House Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, the Prime Minister took a vacation with his family at Christmas time. That is indeed the case. And for the member across the way, if his position isn't it acceptable during Christmas? Is the Prime Minister allowed to take a vacation with his family? Is that reasonable? Or is it because the majority of the costs or for safety, does the member think that the Prime Minister doesn't need a security service?
Member for Simcoe Grey.
Mr. Speaker, inflation remains at a 40-year high. Gas prices are unaffordable and intentionally being made worse. Under this government, housing costs have doubled. Seniors are having to sell their homes just to get by. Canadians struggle while the Prime Minister continues his jet-set ways. A couple days in New York with some celebs, a week in Jamaica with a Trudeau Foundation donor. It's a good life for anyone who doesn't have a country to run. Mr. Speaker, when is the Prime Minister going to stop his wannabe celebrity ways and get serious about the affordability crisis?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives continue to talk down the Canadian economy. But the reality is Canada is the best country in the world and is coping better with a challenging global economic environment than any country anywhere on the planet. Our economy grew by 2.5% in the first quarter. Last month, we added 41,000 jobs. That means we have added 900,000 jobs since the pandemic. 129% of the jobs recovered in Canada compared to 115% in the U.S., Mr. Speaker.
Well, member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After 8 years of this Liberal government, Canadians are now desperate. Many are struggling to decide which bill to pay first. This government has driven up the cost of living, making everything more expensive. Vacations, well, they're simply out of the question for most Canadians, but yet this Prime Minister spends enormous amount of taxpayer dollars taking luxurious foreign vacations. Here's a novel idea, Mr. Speaker. Would this Prime Minister consider staying home to actually help Canadians?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
You know, Mr. Speaker, what Canadians are desperate about is the gloom and doom and the talking down of Canada and the Canadian economy. They are relentlessly hearing from the grouchy members opposite. Now, the reality is Canada is a fantastic country, and Canada is doing really well. Mr. Speaker, inflation in March was 4.3%. It has been going down for 9 consecutive months, Mr. Speaker, and the Bank of Canada is forecasting it will be at 3% in the summer and below 3% by the end of the year. Canada is recovering remarkably, Mr. Speaker.
If I can have your attention, please. Order. I just want to remind the honourable members, we're in Parliament, and calling each other names really doesn't help our argument on either side. The honourable member for Calgary Skyview.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, over 100 wildfires are burning in Alberta right now, threatening communities and forcing nearly 30,000 people from their homes. The situation has become so severe that the provincial government has declared a province-wide state of local emergency. While we are expecting more favorable conditions over the next few days, this will likely continue to be a major crisis. Can the minister update this House on the government's conversations with Alberta and what is being done to help those affected?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me thank my honourable colleague from Calgary Skyview for his question on behalf of the people of Alberta. And if I may, I would like to express my gratitude to the firefighters, first responders, emergency management individuals, Indigenous leadership, right across Alberta. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are there for each other. We've been working very closely with the province of Alberta throughout this event. This afternoon, we received a formal request for assistance, and we have been working all weekend to identify the appropriate resources. Mr. Speaker, if I may, I'd also like to point out that this week is Emergency Preparedness Week, and we urge all Canadians, know your risks, be prepared.
The honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
The Human Rights Tribunal ordered that this government ensure Indigenous children are given access to care and services they deserve in a timely manner, upholding Jordan's principle. But this government is evading that obligation by simply refusing to pay. We have had child therapists, speech pathologists who've been pushed to the point of bankruptcy because the government refuses to pay the bill. The backlog in one of the latest cases is $450,000 in deadbeat non-payments. These are children's lives we're talking about. Why is this government ignoring its legal obligations under Jordan's principle?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member opposite for this question, and it's a really important one. Jordan's Principle continues to offer important services all across Canada, but it's important for us to focus on the investments that we're making for children across Canada. That's why I'm really happy to talk about the $43 billion largest Indigenous settlement that we've had to make sure that we're getting it right when it comes to children moving forward. And I continue to want to work with the member opposite to make sure that we're not only supporting Jordan's Principle, but also supporting the children of Indigenous communities all across Canada. Thank you.
Honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This weekend, Liberals overwhelmingly supported a policy motion that is very similar and consistent with Motion 76 put forward by my colleague, the Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre. This is extremely positive news, but the Prime Minister is quoted as saying it would, despite the support of his party, never be a priority for the Prime Minister, because he says the fact is there is no consensus. This motion calls for a national, nonpartisan Citizens' Assembly to find that consensus. Is consensus defined by the Prime Minister as including himself? Otherwise, there's no consensus?
The Honourable Minister for Intergovernmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our government will continue to look for ways to increase Canadians' participation in the democratic process. We have a number of suggestions. The NDP and the Prime Minister, the leader of the NDP and the Prime Minister in the Sublime Conference Agreement agreed to a number of elements that will improve access to voting. We're working on those kind of issues constructively, Mr. Speaker, and our government has made it clear that there is no consensus in terms of the kind of reform that my honourable colleague is talking about, and we're focusing on issues that matter to Canadians in terms of affordability, fighting against climate change, and other issues that we think are very important.
Here, here. Comme il est 15h15, conformément à l'ordre adopté le...
It being 3:15, pursuant to order made on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion of Mr. Cooper relating to the business of supply.